Chapter 01. The night before I was set to win the Best New Actor award, I stumbled upon a young model from our film set being sexually harassed by a drunk. I saved her and even helped her call the police. But the next day, she brought the police to the set and pointed at me. She claimed the drunk was innocent and that I was the real assailant. I was taken away by the police in front of everyone, not only losing my nomination for the Best New Actor award but also getting blacklisted in the industry due to baseless rumors spread by netizens. In the end, my mom, Helen, had to leave a suicide note and jump from a building on a live stream, using her death to prove my innocence. Under the pressure of public opinion, the police eventually released me due to insufficient evidence. But my acting career was already destroyed. I didn't just lose a promising future, I lost the person who loved me most in the world. I found that model, Victoria Miller, and asked her why she had twisted the truth. She told me the drunk was the producer's son, Ethan Donovan, someone she couldn't afford to offend. I still want to make it in Hollywood. I can't cause trouble. Besides, I didn't ask you to play the hero. You were being nosy, so you deserve what you got. As she finished speaking, Ethan Donovan stepped out of a luxury SUV, looking smug. He wrapped an arm around her waist and kissed her. So what if you win the Best New Actor award? You're still nothing more than a dog on my father's payroll. Wouldn't it be easier to just be an obedient little pet? When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day of the incident. This time I decided to stay out of it. 1. Don't touch me. Get your hands off me. If you touch me again, I'm going to scream. The sudden screams made me turn my head instinctively. In the dimly lit parking garage, a man in a designer suit was pinning down a woman in a white dress, his hands all over her. The scene sent a chill down my spine. I looked down at the costume I was still wearing, then at my surroundings in the parking garage. I pinched my arm, and the pain told me it was real. I had been reborn. Fate had given me a second chance. What was happening before my eyes reawakened that painful memory. In my past life, I had grabbed a metal pipe and rushed forward to save Victoria Miller. Ethan Donovan took a few hits before fleeing in a panic. Victoria sat slumped on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. I took off my jacket to cover her disheveled dress and told her not to blame herself. She was an innocent victim. I encouraged her to stand up for herself. With my encouragement, she agreed to call the police. Afterward, I accompanied her to the station to give a statement. When I got home, I told my mom what had happened. My mother was proud of my sense of justice. Who knew that this single act of heroism would push my mother and me into an abyss of despair? The next morning, I was on set filming when Victoria Miller suddenly burst in with the police and, in front of the entire cast and crew, accused me of being the attacker. She fabricated a story, saying that when I went back to get the jacket I'd left behind, I overheard her reporting the incident. Then I threatened to destroy her acting career. Victoria, her face streaked with tears, claimed she had no choice but to yield to my threats. She pointed at me and screamed hysterically, "He's no righteous hero. He's the one who assaulted me." I felt the world spinning. 2. Before I could process what was happening, the police stepped forward, slapped handcuffs on me, and dragged me away from the set. It was only then that I snapped out of it, struggling and shouting, "I didn't do anything. How can you frame me like this? I saved you." She replied tearfully, "No girl would lie about something like this." Everyone there took her side. Just like that, I was branded a sex offender, a pervert in everyone's eyes. A crew member leaked the story online. It quickly shot to the top of the trending topics on social media. Countless netizens launched a vicious campaign of cyberbullying against me. They said I should go to hell, that I deserved to be punished. The rumors grew more intense, more absurd. They even started attacking my mother. They spread lies that she was a hooker and that I was an accident from one of her clients. Under public pressure, the production company fired me to quell the scandal. I also lost the Best New Actor nomination that was practically in my hands. While everyone was pointing fingers at me, only my mother stood by me, unwavering. She burst onto the set with a letter written in her own blood and leaped from a tall building in front of thousands of viewers. She gave her life to clear my name. The horrific live stream caused the incident to explode again. Public opinion began to shift, and rational voices started to emerge. People began to carefully analyze Victoria's claims. With the attention of society at large, the police conducted a deeper investigation and eventually released me due to insufficient evidence. But what did that change? My acting career was in ruins, and the most important person in my life was gone forever. Walking down the street, I would always hear whispers behind my back, people calling me a serial harasser. They said the only reason I was released was because I had connections. I had lost everything. My future was destroyed, and I was utterly alone. I lived like a walking corpse in a shabby rented apartment. I wandered the streets, making a meager living delivering food, until one day I ran into Victoria Miller. She was like a completely different person. She had stylish brown hair, reeked of expensive perfume, and carried a designer bag worth a small fortune. She had actually come back. She had vanished right after the incident. Once the storm had passed, she reappeared as if nothing had happened. The blood in my veins boiled instantly. I threw off my helmet and rushed at her like a madman, demanding to know why she had betrayed my kindness. She recoiled in disgust, covering her nose and mouth, trying to leave. I blocked her path, relentlessly questioning her. She finally snapped, "Do you have any idea who harassed me? It was the producer's son. I can't afford to cross them." I screamed back, my voice raw. "So you framed me? Made me the scapegoat?" "3," she retorted righteously. "I still want to make it in Hollywood. I can't cause trouble. Besides, you were the one who insisted on playing the hero. I didn't ask you to. You brought this on yourself." Before she could finish, Ethan Donovan stepped out of a luxury car, arrogant as ever. He wrapped his arm around Victoria and kissed her wantonly. "So what if you win the Best New Actor award? You're still just a dog on my father's payroll. Wouldn't it be better to just be my compliant little mistress?" Victoria snuggled up to him fawningly. It all made sense. My head spun, and I collapsed. The back of my head hit the ground. When I came to, I was back at the beginning. I glanced at the two figures in the parking garage. Without a second thought, I turned and walked away. I could faintly hear someone shouting behind me, but I paid them no mind. I went home. As I was changing my shoes, my mom, Helen Clark, came out to greet me, spatula in hand. "My little actor is home. I made your favorite barbecue ribs today. Go wash up and eat in my past life to clear my name." Mom chose the most extreme method to create a sensation. I was locked in a detention center and missed my last chance to see her. Mom was the only family I had in the world. My father had died in a car accident when I was young. To raise me, Mom worked several jobs at once. She toiled from dawn till dusk. Though still young, her temples were already gray. Looking at my mother's loving smile and remembering the tragedy of my past life, tears welled up in my eyes. Mom looked worried, placing her hands on my shoulders. "Sincere, did someone bully you? You tell me, and I'll sort them out for you." I wiped away my tears and forced a smile. "No one bullied me. I was just thinking about how I'm about to win the Best New Actor award, and soon I'll be able to get you a big house. I'm just so happy." Mom beamed. "My son is just that outstanding, yes. My greatest wish in this life was to become famous and give my mother a good life. That was how it should have been in my past life. I was on the verge of winning the Best New Actor award, with a boundless future ahead of me. I could have completely changed my mother's life. Once I became an A-list star, earning substantial fees, I could have allowed my mother, who had sacrificed so much, to enjoy a peaceful retirement. But that ungrateful woman, Victoria, destroyed everything. My bright, shining future was plunged into darkness in an instant. This life, I would not get involved in such a thankless task, but I was still too naive. The next morning, I had just arrived on set. Victoria Miller suddenly stormed up to me, her eyes filled with tears as she questioned me. "Why didn't you save me yesterday when you saw I was in danger? This woman is insane." 4. I cursed silently in my head. Plenty of people walked past yesterday, so why is she so fixated on me? I pretended to be confused. "I don't know what you're talking about. In the parking garage last night you could have saved me, but you just stood by and watched your absolutely cold-blooded." Victoria's voice was loud, and the other actors and crew members on set cast curious glances our way. They all had the look of spectators eager for some drama. I kept my head down, looking at my script, not bothering to engage with her. Seeing this, Victoria snatched the script from my hands and tore it to shreds. I was instantly furious. I stood up and slapped Victoria across the face. Victoria was stunned by the slap. She clutched her reddening cheek, her body trembling. "You dare hit me?" "Sincere Clark, you actually dare to hit me?" Victoria grabbed my collar and shook me violently, roaring like a madwoman. "Are you feeling guilty? Did Ethan Donovan pay you off to pretend you didn't see anything, or were you two in on it together?" I shoved her hands away and slapped her again with the back of my hand, not caring that she was a woman. If you're sick, go see a doctor. What nonsense are you spouting? I don't understand a word of it. Victoria clutched her head, looking like she was having a complete mental breakdown. Sincere Clark, you bastard. You've ruined everything for me, you beast. You should go to hell, she screamed hysterically. Her voice made my eardrums ache. I sneered. What crazy talk is this? What does any of this have to do with me? In my last life, you were the one who truly ruined my future. If it weren't for you betraying my kindness for your own gain, how would my life have descended into darkness? And how could my mother have chosen to jump off a building? As I replayed the events of my past life in my mind, I felt not a shred of sympathy for Victoria's pitiful state. On the contrary, I found it ironic. Victoria tried to fight me, but she was no match for my strength. Fortunately, the director, Mr. Anderson, arrived just in time to prevent the situation from escalating. The director was furious. We're about to start shooting. What are you two doing causing a scene? Get to rehearsal now. Although Mr. Anderson wasn't a tall man, he had a commanding presence. With just a few words, the onlookers scattered. He criticized the crew for slacking off and wasting precious rehearsal time. He even said everyone should look up to me as an example, and extra spoke up, unhappy. Sincere Clark is the one who started this mess. Director, don't play favorites 5. Mr. Anderson raised an eyebrow, walked over to me, and looked between me and Victoria. He didn't ask what happened. Instead, he simply told us to come to his office. I had no complaints about the director's attitude. In fact, I was very cooperative. After all, in my last life, he was the only one who spoke up for me online. He was also the one who posted my mother's suicide note online. As the controversy grew, he never stopped trying to find evidence to clear my name. Victoria screamed hysterically, "You old geezer. You must be trying to cover for this scumbag Sincere Clark. You see, he's about to win the Best New Actor award, which will bring glory to your production, so you're dragging us into your office to handle this privately." The people on set who initially had a problem with me now looked at Victoria's crazed state with a mixture of pity and scorn. What a lunatic. Mr. Anderson frowned. Victoria, I'm not going to favor Sincere just because he's been nominated. If he's done something wrong, I'll deal with him accordingly. Victoria pointed to the swelling on her face. This thug hit me twice, a grown man hitting a defenseless woman. Do you have any idea how much that hurt me? I didn't deny it, but I countered. You didn't look much like a helpless little flower when you were tearing up my script. Mr. Anderson looked at the shredded paper on the floor, then at the slap marks on Victoria's face, and said with a stern expression, "To the conference room." The director's presence was so powerful that even having been reborn, I didn't dare look him in the eye. No wonder everyone on set was afraid of him. But his authority also intimidated Victoria. She shot me a venomous glare and stormed off the set. In the office, Victoria and I each explained our side of the story. The director looked at me with confusion. "Sincere, you should have helped in a situation like that. But I can't force you. At the very least, you should have called the police." Seeing the director leaning in her favor, Victoria became smug. "My acting career is ruined, and it's all your fault." I held up my hands. "But director, I didn't even notice anything at the time. I didn't see or hear a thing, so how could I have helped?" And look at Victoria's attitude now. I have to wonder, even if I had saved her, would she have complained I was too slow, or even turned around and blamed me? Victoria immediately became agitated. "You beast, who the hell do you think you are? You're not just inhuman. Comparing you to a beast is an insult to beasts." Of course, I only thought this to myself. I didn't say it out loud. 6. Mr. Anderson looked Victoria straight in the eye. "In that case, let's call the police." "Call the police?" No, Victoria trembled with anxiety. "If I report this, how will I survive in Hollywood? Who will answer for my reputation?" "The person who harassed you, of course. The victim is not the criminal." The director's stance was firm. After all, he had been in the entertainment industry for many years. He had seen it all and knew how to handle these situations. Victoria's gaze shifted, and she fell silent. I supported the director's suggestion. The director's judgment is spot on. Reporting this to the police immediately is the right choice. The person who deserves to be punished must pay the price. Victoria seemed reluctant, but she was cornered. If she didn't report it, the subsequent gossip would likely make her life even more difficult. That's how Hollywood works. The female artist is the victim. But in the end, the victimized female artist often gets her share of the blame. All because she's not famous enough, doesn't have a powerful backer, and isn't a top-tier celebrity. Fine. Victoria reluctantly agreed. I went with Victoria and the director to the police station. After explaining the situation to the police, the officers quickly assembled a team to begin the investigation. This matter had nothing to do with me. I was a complete outsider. After getting the basic facts, the police indicated that I could leave. At that moment, Victoria suddenly became emotional, grabbing an officer's uniform and shouting, "Officer, Sincere Clarke, this bastard, ruined my future. Why should he get off scot-free? Is it because he's a moderately famous actor that you're deliberately favoring him?" 7. Faced with Victoria's unreasonable behavior, the officer maintained his professionalism and didn't pull his arm away. Instead, he patiently explained, "Mr. Sincere Clarke has not broken any laws. He was just passing by and didn't even realize you were in trouble." Victoria rudely cut him off. He was clearly playing dumb. When I was screaming for help, I saw him turn his head in my direction. He must have known I was being assaulted. He deliberately chose not to save me. Faced with Victoria's rude interruption and belligerent attitude, the officer's expression hardened. Even if he did see it, legally speaking, failing to rescue someone does not constitute a crime. If the assailant had a weapon, rushing in to help could have led to even greater danger. The correct course of action is to call the police immediately and shout at the criminal from a distance, assuming you actually witnessed the event. As for whether he was aware of the situation, that's not for you to decide based on subjective speculation. The officer's face was a mask of helplessness. Perhaps he was thinking the same thing I was. When you encounter someone like Victoria, the wisest choice is to keep your distance. Seeing she couldn't get her way, Victoria simply collapsed onto the floor and burst into tears. "You're all bullying me because I'm just a nobody actress. Sincere Clarke's failure to save me is a crime. My acting career is over. He has to compensate me. He has to take responsibility." In that moment, she looked exactly like a shrew throwing a tantrum. The officer's face grew even darker, and he warned her sternly, "This is a law enforcement agency, not a place for you to throw a fit. You may be the victim, but if you continue this unreasonable behavior, we will take legal action against you. This is your first warning." He was already reaching for his handcuffs. Victoria was so frightened she scrambled up from the floor and began to sob quietly instead. She looked as if she might pass out at any moment. The officer sighed heavily. "We will bring the criminal to justice and ensure you get a fair outcome." Seeing her get put in her place, I almost laughed out loud. I felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Afterward, Victoria was kept at the police station to assist with the investigation. I returned to the set in the director's car. As we parted, the director said earnestly, "Sincere, even though you've been nominated for Best New Actor, you can't let your guard down. Becoming an A-list star is just the beginning. There are many actors in this industry who are more talented than you. Don't let minor issues like this affect your career development, understand?" Although the director's words were blunt, he was genuinely looking out for me. I nodded solemnly. "I'll remember that." I went back to work on set. I thought that would be the end of it for a while. But the next day, she stormed onto the set again, this time with the police, and pointed directly at me as the culprit. Chapter 0:2. It was as if everything was repeating itself. It was him. He's the one who assaulted me in the parking garage the day before yesterday. He also threatened that if I dared to tell the truth, he would make sure I never worked in this town again. As Victoria spoke, tears began to well up in her eyes, making her look pitiful and vulnerable. It was like my past life was playing out all over again. The crew members immediately started murmuring among themselves. People from other productions also gathered around, pointing and whispering. The up-and-coming star harassed Victoria Miller? Is that why she came looking for Sincere yesterday? I heard the director took them to the police station yesterday. Was it about this, Sincere Clarke harassing someone? That's the funniest thing I've heard all year. The set was buzzing with discussion. But something was different. Compared to my past life, this time, there were people in the crowd who didn't believe her. 8. After all, everyone had seen what happened yesterday with their own eyes. And this time, I wouldn't be like before, so scared I couldn't speak, letting Victoria spin her web of lies. But one of the younger police officers who came with her had a stern face. He walked up to me, flashed his badge, and said, "Sincere Clarke, you are a suspect in a sexual harassment case. Please come with us to the station to assist with the investigation." With that, he actually tried to put me in handcuffs. I frowned. This was definitely not standard procedure. Wait a minute before I could dodge and question him. A loud shout came from the entrance. It was the director, who had heard the news. He ran over, panting, clearly having rushed here. Before he could catch his breath, he demanded sternly, "Which precinct are you from?" "We already filed a report, and Sincere Clark was cleared at that time. What are you doing here making a scene again today?" As he spoke, he glanced at Victoria, his eyes full of suspicion. Victoria avoided his gaze, looking very guilty. The director had deep roots in the industry. When he got angry, even top stars had to show him respect. The police officer's bravado instantly deflated, and his voice softened. "After further investigation, we believe it is highly likely that Sincere Clark was the one who committed the sexual harassment." Seeing the director's brow furrow in anger, he quickly added, "Of course, this is just a preliminary suspicion. We need Sincere Clark to cooperate with the investigation to confirm the truth." 9. But the director wasn't buying it. His face was cold as he said, "Nonsense, wasn't this already investigated and cleared? Why the sudden change of story today? And another thing, you said he's here to assist with the investigation, right? If it's just assistance, why are you using force? He may be an actor, but he's also a private citizen. You don't even have the proper paperwork, so what gives you the right to handcuff him? This kind of action will severely damage his future and his mental state. This is a film set, not a place where you can do whatever you please." The officer was rendered speechless, but another, older officer stepped forward to smooth things over. "It's true we were inconsiderate, but this is a criminal case, and it's a serious matter. Even without handcuffs, Sincere Clark must come with us. Director, please don't obstruct us in our duties, or else—" His words were a mix of soft and hard, and they seemed to make sense. The director was momentarily at a loss for words. I stood up and thanked the director for speaking out for me. Then I looked at the two officers. "I can go with you. However, since this is a continuing investigation, I hope that Officer Chen, who was in charge previously, can lead the questioning." The uniformed officer looked displeased. "Sincere Clark, you have been identified as a person of interest. You are in no position to make demands. Don't you pull rank on us. Sincere Clark is only assisting the investigation. He has the right to make a reasonable request. Give me your badge number. I'm going to file a complaint." The director stepped forward, his gaze sharp as he stared down the young officer. He wasn't a tall man, but in that moment, in my eyes, he was the most reliable pillar of support I had besides my mother. The older officer quickly tried to mediate. "Director, your actor just needs to be questioned. Once the truth is out, his name will naturally be cleared. There's nothing to clear. This was all sorted out yesterday." "Are you trying to twist the facts?" The older officer's face darkened, and his hand moved to his hip. "Sir, are you sure you want to obstruct justice? This isn't obstruction, it's stopping you from acting recklessly, seeing the situation about to spiral out of control." I quickly said, "I told you I would cooperate, but I'm just making a reasonable request. Why are you so determined to refuse? Yesterday, Victoria came to the set and caused a scene, and the whole story was made clear. The entire crew can testify to that now. You're claiming I'm a suspect without any evidence. You don't have some sort of connection with her, do you? I was young, so it was excusable for me to be a bit impulsive." The crew members started murmuring among themselves. The bolder ones were already talking about what happened yesterday. "That's right, we can all testify." Seeing the situation slipping from her grasp, Victoria suddenly burst into tears. "Director, I'm the victim here. The police are here, so why are you still defending Sincere Clark?" I gathered all my courage to stand up and report his misconduct. "Director, you're a man too. Can you even understand the pain I've been through? Is this something to joke about?" Victoria's words immediately resonated with some people. Among the onlookers from other crews, many nodded in agreement. In this industry, many people despise sexual harassment, and Victoria usually came across as a sweet, innocent girl. Now that she was swearing on her reputation, many people instinctively believed her. Could it be Sincere Clark really did something like that? He's about to win the Best New Actor award. Maybe he's using his fame to bully newcomers. Maybe she's just desperate for fame and is staging this for publicity. But what about what happened yesterday when Victoria came looking for Sincere? That doesn't add up. If you were a female actress, would you joke about your own reputation? The whispers and debates swirled around me. The shadows of my past life reappeared before my eyes. In my last life, Victoria had also cried just like this. Back then, everyone had condemned me without a second thought. I had tried to defend myself, my voice hoarse, but the response I received was soul-crushing. No female actress would joke about her own reputation, right? Victoria isn't stupid. Why would she frame you? She wouldn't destroy her own career. She's not crazy. Oh my God, another sexual harassment case in Hollywood. The contemptuous stares from the crowd felt like countless sharp blades, piercing me through and through. My heart nearly stopped. My hands and feet grew cold, my body weak. In the end, amidst the chaos, the officers slapped the cold handcuffs on me and led me away in a grand spectacle like I was being paraded through the streets for everyone to see and judge. This time, I was remarkably calm, not panicked and helpless like before. Seeing everyone take her side, a smug look flashed across Victoria's face. You pervert, the law will punish you jail time. Compensation, you won't escape any of it, compensation? Ah, so her true colors were finally showing. In my last life, after I was detained, she had the audacity to demand a $3 million settlement from me. But where would my family get that kind of money? That $3 million was the final straw that broke my mother's back. I looked at Victoria, wanting to tear her apart, and said in an icy tone, "You say you wouldn't joke about your reputation, so why would I? I'm about to win Best New Actor. Would I really destroy my own future?" Victoria said contemptuously, "Who knows why you do bad things? The point is, you did it. Maybe you're jealous that I'm going to win an award, so you're framing me? I could also say you're deliberately setting me up." I pressed on, "What evidence do you have to prove you're telling the truth?" I wouldn't make the same mistake again. The burden of proof was on her. Victoria was already on shaky ground, and she answered frantically, "I'm a female actress. A female actress's reputation is the most important thing. What do I gain from framing you?" I sneered. "Perhaps the real attacker threatened you into committing perjury. Perhaps you were attracted to his prominent family background and decided that being harassed was a small price to pay for a chance to climb the social ladder. You wanted to frame me to get yourself off the hook. I was the scapegoat you chose, or perhaps you're also trying to extort money from me, only Victoria. And I knew that every word I said was the truth." Her scheme exposed. Victoria's face turned beet red. "You're talking nonsense," I shrugged. "Then please provide evidence to prove I'm lying. You accuse me of a crime with no proof, and that's supposed to be the truth. I say you're framing me. Why isn't that the truth?" She couldn't produce any evidence at all. After all, Victoria's plan was to have me take the fall for that other guy. My calmness and composure began to influence the people around me. Could it be true, like Sincere Clarke said, that Victoria is framing him? But who would joke about their own reputation? Sincere is about to win a major award. He wouldn't joke about his future either. The crowd was now divided, with arguments on both sides. Compared to my last life, the situation was much better now. At least not everyone was blaming me. Victoria was speechless, reduced to sobbing. I turned to the law enforcement officers. "Officers, some people here know exactly what the truth is. If someone is trying to frame me, I believe my company and friends in the media will not stand by and do nothing. Let's go. I'll go with you to give a statement." I said all that not to prove anything to the police. These two were probably connected to that rich kid. But I had to stop the people on set from blindly believing Victoria. The tragedy of my last life wasn't caused by Victoria alone. It was also the onlookers. They were all young and full of passion, willing to do anything for what they called justice. Back then, my stammering was seen as a sign of guilt. Victoria's crocodile tears, however, were taken as genuine emotion. In their quest for justice, they posted my crimes online. It ended up blowing up, turning me into a social pariah that everyone wanted to beat down. If I had remained passive like in my last life, doing nothing and just waiting for the truth to come out, that cyberbullying nightmare would surely repeat itself. As it turned out, my approach was very effective. The people on set, seeing how calm and composed I was, began to whisper among themselves, "I don't think Sincere Clarke seems like a bad guy. At least someone who's done something wrong wouldn't be so defiant. This Victoria girl, all talk and no action, can't produce any evidence. And she looks a bit guilty, don't you think? But a female actress's reputation. She wouldn't joke about that. A normal person wouldn't. But what if she's not normal? What if she's a bad apple? There are always people in this world who would sell anything for money, including their dignity and conscience. To some people, moral boundaries are worthless. And just to be clear, I'm talking about some people regardless of gender, so don't you dare label me. Some of the actors who had been on Victoria's side fell silent after exchanging a few words with those around them. Now they too were hesitant to condemn me. Hearing the discussions around me, I breathed a sigh of relief. I had managed to control the narrative in the court of public opinion that is Hollywood. Victoria, on the other hand, was so furious she was grinding her teeth, her acting skills barely holding up. She had come in with law enforcement, making a big scene, all to destroy me. But now, it was her own reputation that was starting to plummet. I walked towards the police. Weren't we going for an investigation, officers? Shall we go? Officers, you must enforce the law impartially, or I'll file a complaint that's right. I'm going to follow this case every step of the way and monitor its progress from the back of the crowd. Some of the younger, more passionate actors and crew members shouted. We believe the truth will prevail amidst the uproar. The two police officers lost all of their earlier arrogance. The company executives and the director, having heard the news, also rushed to the scene. They demanded that the two officers handle the case according to the law and stated that they would be monitoring the entire process. In my past life, I was taken away so quickly, the company didn't have time to intervene before public opinion exploded. Under pressure, they ultimately had no choice but to sacrifice me. I became the sacrificial lamb. This time, things were completely different. Like a warrior on the verge of being vindicated, I calmly got into the police car. Before getting in, I waved to the crowd behind me. I'll be back on set as soon as I've cleared my name. A wave of supportive shouts followed me. The two police officers, along with Victoria, looked absolutely furious. As soon as I arrived at the station, I saw the rich kid with shoulder-length hair and arms covered in tattoos chatting warmly with a middle-aged police officer. I would recognize him even if he were reduced to ashes. He was the one who had harassed Victoria, Ethan Donovan. Hearing the commotion, Ethan turned around, his face a mask of ridicule. Well, look who they brought in. The man himself. I couldn't be bothered to respond. That only egged him on. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue now that you've been caught? I shot him a cold glance. Someone's playing the victim. Ethan immediately flew into a rage, pointing at me and cursing. You motherfucker, say one more word and see what happens. I ignored him and turned to the officer who had been so friendly with Ethan. Is he in charge here? The middle-aged officer's expression changed, and he cleared his throat. Mr. Donovan, please be mindful of your surroundings. Ethan reluctantly shut his mouth, but not before shooting me a venomous glare. I was taken into an interrogation room, unlike my last life, where I was a panicked mess led by the nose. This time, I ignored any leading questions. I just repeated the events of the previous day over and over. The core point was simple. I was innocent. I had never harassed Victoria Miller. I was being framed. After a full hour and a half of relentless questioning, the police couldn't find a single piece of evidence to contradict my statement, because what I was saying was what had actually happened in this lifetime. And the drama Victoria caused on set yesterday, accusing me of harassment, actually served to prove my innocence. The facts were right there. But the two interrogating officers were clearly not satisfied with my answers. One of them couldn't take it anymore, slamming his hand on the table and standing up. Sincere Clark, I'm giving you one last chance. Confess and you'll be treated with leniency. Resist and you'll be dealt with severely. You should understand that. Admit your mistake now, settle this privately with compensation, and it'll be better for everyone. If you wait until we have concrete evidence, things won't be this simple. I sneered internally. This was a classic interrogation tactic, trying to trick me into confessing. Victoria had already filed a report yesterday, officially opening a case. It was a matter of principle that every case must be solved. It was only a matter of time before they traced it back to Ethan Donovan. But the Donovans were a powerhouse in the local film industry. They would never let Ethan's reputation be ruined. So, as someone connected to the case, I became the most convenient scapegoat. Bribing Victoria would be easy. Even pulling strings with the authorities wouldn't be difficult for them. But I was no longer the clueless rookie I once was. Having lived through it all before, in countless moments of regret, I had already planned out my strategies and responses to injustice. So, faced with this familiar interrogation tactic, I simply smiled calmly. My conscience is clear. Why should I confess? The facts are right here. Everyone knows who the real culprit is. Some things are better left unsaid. It's no fun if you spell everything out. The young officer flew into a rage, pointing his finger at me. What are you talking about? If you dare. I smiled and cut him off. I believe it, you're capable of anything but 14. Then my expression turned cold. My team has already released a statement about what happened on all major platforms. This is already a big deal. Furthermore, I'm a front-runner for Best New Actor at this year's Golden Image Awards. After Victoria slandered me on set yesterday, I already contacted the awards committee. I'm sure they won't just stand by and watch. Are you really going to see this through to the bitter end? Beads of sweat formed on the young officer's forehead, and he quietly sat back down. A faint smile played on my lips. This time, I would use every resource at my disposal. I would not be pushed around. Even in a difficult situation, I had to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. The Best New Actor award that was within my grasp was my best bargaining chip. Unfortunately, in my last life, I failed to use it properly. It even became the final straw that broke me. The young officer's expression was grim. The production company would never go to such lengths for a newcomer like you. I said unhurriedly, I'm already a frontrunner for the award. The credibility of any award is not to be trifled with. Especially this was the Golden Image Award for Best New Actor. The senior officer's brow furrowed, and he stopped his younger colleague from speaking. The two of them then left the room. I sat upright in my chair, my mind racing. In my last life, I didn't ask for help, and I was caught off guard, surrounded by negative press. I was formally detained almost instantly. Naturally, the award organizers wouldn't help me. But now, public opinion was leaning in my favor. I wasn't sure if the awards committee would intervene, but using their name to apply pressure and intimidate them was a valid tactic. A few moments later, the two officers returned. Following behind them was the middle-aged officer who had been so friendly with Ethan Donovan earlier. I didn't know him well, but he seemed to hold a high rank. The middle-aged officer approached me with a broad smile and apologized. Mr. Clark, I'm sorry to have taken up your time. The investigation has concluded that you are innocent. Are you heading back to the set? I can have someone drive you. I gave a slight nod. Thank you for the offer. I walked out of the interrogation room with my head held high. As I passed through the main hall, I saw that Ethan and Victoria were still there. I gave them the middle finger as a sign of my contempt. Ethan's face twisted in an ugly grimace. Victoria completely lost it, screaming hysterically, "You useless fools! Why are you letting him go? He harassed me. He's not leaving until he pays me $5 million. Arrest him and lock him up, unfortunately." For her, no one paid any attention to her crazed outburst. One officer even snapped at her. "Watch your mouth," I insisted that the police car drive me directly into the film studio complex, stopping right outside the set. 15. I deliberately stalled, waiting until the extras were on their break before I made my appearance. It was lunchtime, and the crew members had already noticed the commotion and were gathered in small groups, watching from the edge of the set. I spread my arms wide and waved to the crowd. "Everyone, the police have cleared my name. I, Sincere Clark, am back on set." The crowd of onlookers erupted in enthusiastic cheers. I knew in my heart that if it had been Victoria who had returned today, they would have cheered just as loudly. But at this moment I was the victor. In everyone's eyes, I was the innocent one. Instead of returning to the set, I was called directly to the director's office. The director looked me over carefully and then breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness you're all right. That Victoria Miller has gone too far. Yesterday's incident was just cleared up, and today she's framing you again. You weren't mistreated, were you? Did they give you a hard time?" I quickly waved my hand. "Everything's fine." Although I was safe for now, I knew this was far from over. Victoria and Ethan wouldn't give up so easily. The scapegoat had already been chosen, and changing that would not be easy. After a moment's thought, I contacted the Golden Image Awards Committee. The committee member on the other end of the line listened to the whole story, his tone grave. "I've made a note of this. If you are truly innocent, we will not stand idly by." As if the Golden Image Awards can be manipulated by just anyone. As expected, the situation continued to escalate. Soon after, a headline Golden Image Best New Actor nominee harasses actress began trending online. Countless marketing accounts on various short video platforms began reposting the scoop. In a video where Victoria identified herself by name, she held up her ID and tearfully recounted how she had been harassed but was unable to get justice because her attacker had the backing of the awards committee. The video quickly surpassed 1 million views. My mom initially brought it up in a light-hearted manner, showing me her phone. Sincere, come look at this. There's a new actor just like you who's using his connections with the awards committee to bully a female actress. What a beast. Our Sincere is so much better. A great actor who plays by the rules. And thank goodness for this rich hero, Ethan Donovan, who stepped in and stopped the scumbag. Now the two of them are a couple. Isn't this just like a classic hero saves the damsel story? I was both amused and exasperated. My dear mother, the beast in that video they're talking about is your son. As for Ethan Donovan, the harasser had transformed himself into a hero. Of course, money really can make the world go round. After the video finished, the smile on my mother's face froze, because in the comments section someone had anonymously leaked the full details of the attacker, and it was, unmistakably, my information. 16. It took me a while to calm my mother down. Looking at the comments section of the trending topic, which had tens of thousands of replies, I couldn't help but sneer. Victoria wants a fight? Fine, I'll give her one. Just like in my past life, she had dragged the Golden Image Awards committee into the mud with her. Unfortunately for me back then, I was on the losing side of the PR battle. Everyone in the industry seemed to be saying that I had indeed harassed her, as if they were all eyewitnesses. A lie repeated 1,000 times becomes the truth. Even if I was innocent, I couldn't escape the blame. But this time, the situation was completely different. By doing this, Victoria would only provoke the disgust of people in the industry. I controlled the narrative. The bigger the scandal, the more it would benefit me. As for the awards committee, I had already spoken with them on the phone a couple of days ago. They had even sent their legal team to investigate, and after verifying the facts with the police, they had given me their assurance, leave this to us. The credibility of the award was at stake. What were Victoria and a rich kid from a local film company in comparison? After the story went viral, I quickly received a call from the awards committee. I felt another wave of reassurance. The entire entertainment industry was in an uproar. In the committee members' own words, it had been many years since anyone had dared to challenge the authority of the Golden Image Awards. Industry veterans were all gearing up to speak out, especially this time since I was clearly being framed. I had right on my side and the advantage was mine. My story was already being used by the media as a classic example of the dark side of Hollywood. When falsely accused and slandered, how do you prove your innocence? How do you defend your rights? Should you go through legal channels or the court of public opinion? On the phone, the committee member even joked, "Sincere Clark, congratulations. You haven't even officially won the award yet, and you're already famous throughout the industry. Everyone knows your name now." I gave a wry smile. Who would want to become famous this way? But my heart was finally at ease. Judging by the committee member's attitude, my eligibility for the award should not be affected. As for Victoria and Ethan, this PR war was destined to hurt everyone involved. The next day, I went to the set as usual. As soon as I walked in, I heard whispers all around me. Although most people were still skeptical, a small number had inevitably been swayed by the media narrative. After all, in Victoria's telling, I was the disgraced artist who used connections with the awards committee to do as I pleased. But I didn't care. Having lived through 2 lives, my mental fortitude was strong enough. As I rounded the corner to the dressing room, Victoria suddenly blocked my path. "Sincere Clark, we need to talk." I glanced at her. "There's nothing for us to talk about, unless you want to see more expose videos," Victoria said, a look of triumph on her face. My face was grim. I secretly noticed a figure flash in the corner and nodded. 17. I led Victoria to an abandoned prop room behind the set. "All right, what do you want?" This place was usually empty. Only occasionally would a crew member come looking for a prop. Victoria looked around. Seeing that no one else was there, her expression turned smug. "Turned off your private messages? You must have gotten a lot of hate mail recently, right?" I nodded, my face impassive. "You've achieved your goal. Some people have even threatened to come to the set to confront me. If you want to put an end to this, it's simple. Pay me $5 million and I'll take down all the posts. We'll call it even, and I'll agree to a settlement. Why should I admit to a crime I didn't commit?" I frowned, and before Victoria could say more, I asked, "Still don't get it. Why are you so set on targeting me? You were harassed by Ethan Donovan. You're the victim. I'm the most innocent one here. I didn't even know what was going on. I just happened to be on set, the one who should be held responsible is Ethan, but you're helping him get away with it." Victoria sneered but said nothing. I could see her guard was up, so I took out my phone to show her. Don't worry, I'm not recording. I just want to understand what really happened. I then turned out the pockets of my jacket and pants and flipped through the script in my hand to prove I had no recording devices. Victoria let down her guard, no longer hiding the resentment on her face. I just can't stand you. Why do you get such good opportunities so easily? Why do I have to work my ass off and still can't even make it as a B-list actress? And how dare you ignore me like that? Seeing my confused expression, Victoria became even more annoyed. You don't even remember the love confession I sent you, so that was why she resented me? This was incredibly unfair. It was true that people often showed interest in me, and I was constantly getting all sorts of messages. On a busy day I could receive several, but I was completely focused on my acting career, determined to make a name for myself so my mother could have a better life. I had no time for romance. I deleted all those flirtatious messages without even reading them, so of course I wouldn't remember. Is it that simple? Victoria shook her head mockingly. Of course not. You ask me why I'm siding with Ethan? Because you're just a third-rate actor. We can't fight the Donovan family. They're a powerhouse in the local film industry, worth billions. They can blacklist whoever they want, crush whoever they want. Who do you think you are to challenge them? Now my future is ruined, and I won't even get the Golden Image Award for Best New Actor. I have to secure a future for myself, don't I? My biggest mistake was calling the police. Who knew at the time that Ethan was the only son of a film industry tycoon? They promised me that if I helped Ethan get out of this mess, they would let me be his girlfriend. Even if I can't marry into a wealthy family, being his secret lover means I'll be set for life. From my perspective, anyone would make the same choice. At this point, Victoria's expression grew even more contemptuous, her tone laced with sarcasm. So, what if you're nominated for a Golden Image Award? In the end, you still have to bow down to the capitalists. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll have to come begging for a job at Donovan Pictures and respectfully call me Mrs. Donovan. Consumed by greed, Victoria was already lost in her dream of a luxurious life. Looking at her distorted face, I silently shook my head. She took a few deep breaths, looked around warily, and then gave me her final ultimatum. I'm giving you one last chance. Either you pay me $5 million to settle this, or I'll keep posting online. I answered with a blank expression. My conscience is clear. Do whatever you want. Victoria snorted. Then don't blame me for what happens next. As she spoke, her expression suddenly changed. She grabbed my hand and started rubbing it all over her body. Then she messed up her hair, tore at her clothes, and in a few seconds her jacket was in tatters. In the blink of an eye, she squeezed out some tears and screamed hysterically, "Help, I'm being assaulted!" With that, she stumbled out of the room. She stopped at the corner, wiped away her tears, and turned back to give me a triumphant smile. "You're finished. This footage is the perfect piece of evidence." A cold laugh came from around the corner. Ethan Donovan appeared, holding his phone, a look of utter arrogance on his face. "You little punk thought you were so tough, didn't you? Let me tell you, I've got people behind me. Crushing you is as easy as squashing an ant. If I say you're guilty, you're guilty. You still dare to claim innocence? This time I'll completely destroy your reputation." It all clicked into place. No wonder Victoria had the guts to confront me again. It turned out they were planning to frame me. Give it up. If my family had someone like you, my dead father would rise from his grave, I said nonchalantly. Before Ethan could react, the director, producer, assistant director, and other executives arrived, out of breath, shouting as they ran. "Stop!" Victoria's face changed instantly, and she threw herself into the director's arms, fake crying, "Director, help me!" He tried to assault me. Watching her over-the-top performance, I shook my head in disapproval. With acting skills like that, she should switch to adult films. The director had a complicated expression on his face. His gaze shifted between me, the fake crying Victoria, the smug Ethan, and the other executives, before he finally looked up at the ceiling and sighed. "Then let's call the police and handle this." I shrugged in agreement. "Yes, let the police handle it." After the police arrived, I casually glanced at the corner of the room and delivered the final blow to the still smug pair. "Victoria, it's true I wasn't recording, but you probably don't know that to prevent crew members from making secret deals or leaking footage, the production company installed surveillance cameras in every corner last week. If anyone lingers here, security is immediately alerted. Isn't that right, Director?" I looked at Mr. Anderson. The director suppressed a smile. That's right, the video and audio quality are crystal clear. How else would the studio executives have arrived so quickly? Of course, security had notified them. I knew about this because I often stayed late on set to practice my lines and was always the last to leave. One day, I happened to see the cameras being installed. Watching the color drain from Ethan's and Victoria's faces, I let out a long breath and smiled. I sent a copy of the video to the Golden Image Awards Committee. A mysterious someone also posted the video online. A victim had become an accomplice, and she was helping the very person who had harassed her. This kind of plot twist immediately caused a media frenzy. Public opinion reversed in an instant. Industry veterans were furious. They took to all major platforms to voice their support for me. Many lawyers offered to represent me pro bono. I rode the wave of public interest and posted online, asking for any leads on the original harassment case. Soon after, a piece of surveillance footage from the set was leaked online, once again becoming a top trending topic. The video clearly showed Ethan Donovan's act of harassment. The person who leaked the video also claimed that this footage had been given to the police long ago, but somehow I had ended up as the suspect. This revelation caused an even bigger uproar. The city immediately formed a special task force to investigate. Ethan Donovan was quickly arrested. Although Victoria was a victim, she was also detained for making false accusations and attempted blackmail. 3 days later, a detailed investigation report was released to the public. It confirmed that Ethan was the real culprit in the harassment case. At the same time, several police officers suspected of taking bribes were fired and arrested. I recognized all of them. They were the ones who had tried to trick me into a false confession that day, including the one who had been so chummy with Ethan. 18, with the help of the Film Association, I hired a professional legal team and officially filed a civil lawsuit against Victoria Miller and Ethan Donovan for damages. As the lawsuit progressed, the story dominated the trending topics for a whole month. On the day of the verdict, the topic instantly shot to the top of all social media platforms. Because the entire trial was live-streamed online, a massive number of netizens flooded the live stream, with the online viewer count surpassing 3 million within 10 minutes. In court, my legal team presented a logical and well-supported case, providing detailed evidence and listing all of Victoria's and Ethan's illegal acts. Victoria broke down on the spot, fainting in front of the entire online audience. Her acting career was completely over. The final verdict was delivered. Ethan Donovan was found guilty of sexual harassment and sentenced to prison. Victoria Miller was found guilty of slander, defamation, and attempted extortion, and was also sentenced to prison. They were both ordered to pay me a substantial amount for emotional distress. Countless netizens cheered, calling it a victory for justice. After the trial, Victoria's parents rushed to the courthouse steps and started yelling at me. "She's still a girl. How could you be so cruel? How is she supposed to make it in the entertainment industry now? You're too vicious, we won't let you get away with this." I took out my phone, played the recording I had just made of their threats, and responded calmly, "I welcome your revenge at any time. I will reserve the right to take legal action." Watching Victoria's parents scurry away in a panic, I smiled. I finally understood why Victoria had become so extreme, like father, like daughter. But the story didn't end there. A year later, Donovan Pictures collapsed. And for that, I had Victoria's arrogant words to thank. The prosecutor's office followed the trail and uncovered a shocking black market industry within the film world. Both of Ethan's parents were sent to prison, one with a death sentence, the other with life without parole. A different kind of family reunion, I suppose. I threw myself back into my acting career. I also signed with a powerful and well-established talent agency. Once the dust settled, I began a new chapter in my career. My acting career flourished. Thanks to the impact of this incident, many industry veterans looked out for me. Victoria Miller died. Because of her words, Ethan Donovan's family was destroyed. After he was released from prison, he stabbed her to death, and then he went back to prison, this time for life. I trended online again. The industry gave me a new nickname, the King of Trending Topics. I successfully became an A-list actor, and my work won numerous awards. In my early 30s, I was already a leading figure of the new generation in the film industry and had successfully founded my own studio. My career was a resounding success. 19. I had achieved my original dream. I bought my ideal home in a prime location in the heart of the city, filled it with all sorts of luxuries, and achieved financial freedom. Every year, I would visit the production manager from back then, bringing gifts, to thank him for helping me in my time of need. My mother completely retired. She spent her days traveling and working out, and she actually looked younger than before. This life, I have no regrets.